up, everybody? Hey, I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. As you can see here, this is never good. We got the hood popped on the truck. We have got the engine bay motor door open on the skid steer. So we have got some maintenance going on today. I'm gonna bring you all along for it. On Red had a power steering pump that was leaking. It was leaking pretty bad, and I'm gonna show you. I fixed it yesterday. I'm gonna show you what I did to fix it. And then on the skid steer here, we've got a thermostat problem. You know, we got all that freezing weather here a couple weeks ago, and when all that freezing weather come through, the thermostat stuck. And when it stuck closed and caused the skid steer to overheat. So I've got a new thermostat and some new antifreeze. We're going to change the antifreeze in it and put a new thermostat in. I'm going to show you how to do that. And let's walk over here and look at Red right quick. I hope everyone's having a wonderful week so far. Oh, let me take you over here before I show you Red. I want to show you what me and the mules have got done. Just kind of hang out, walk around with y'all a little bit today. Hope everyone's been doing good. I want to show you our log piles. I don't know if we're going to get to haul any this week because it's been muddy. And they're calling for more rain tomorrow. So the logs that we got out, we might not even be able to haul right now. We have to wait a little while. So we got a stack of ties here, tie logs. And for those of you that don't know what tie logs are, they'll be used for railroad cross ties. That's what they'll be sawed into. Here is a stack of higher grade white oak grade logs. We don't get a whole lot of those, but we're thankful to have them that we do get. Right here in this last section of timber we cut, there was a good bit of white oak grade that come off of it. And then right over here, we've got a big stack of poplar. A good stack of poplar, a lot of long stuff, 12 and 14 foot stuff. And then we've got two little old hard maple logs. There weren't many of them fellers, but they are there. But anyway, I mean, you know, as you can see, look right here at the ground. You know, I mean, it don't take much to kind of mar up in it. And y'all, I don't want to tear the man's field up trying to get in and out. We do need to haul some logs. We hadn't hauled no logs now in a few weeks. So we do need to haul some, but I'm not going to tear a man's place plumb up trying to do it. And if it comes down to it, y'all, we may take the log wagon. See it sitting over there? We might later take the log wagon and haul our logs from where we got them staged over here out to the road out there, if that makes any sense. So let me get this thing turned around right quick, and I want to show you this power steering pump on Red. All right, here's Red's engine. Again, for those of you that have asked questions and are curious, this is a 427 big block Chevrolet engine. It's a gas burner. It does have air brakes. Right here's your air compressor. But anyway, this is a pretty simple design. Red has got a heavy axle in the front. It's an 11,000 pound front axle. And right here is power steering pump reservoir. And these old Chevrolets used automatic transmission fluid as fluid for the power steering pumps. Okay, but here's power steering pump right down here. Let me get y'all in. This is it right here. And you see it's got that little tin looking can looking deal there. Okay. And then let me get y'all in here where you can see. Maybe there's a line coming off the back right down there. Okay, you've got two mount bolts in here behind this pulley, and those are kind of a pain to get to. There's actually a hole in the pulley right over there, and you got to go through that hole to get them bolts out, and it is kind of a pain. Now y'all, let me give you just a little bit of background on this power steering pump. On these heavier trucks, the medium duties, the power steering pump is kind of like inside of that can. That can basically is like a reservoir that holds fluid all around the pump. Okay, and it's just sealed inside of that can. And this pump is actually fairly new. I replaced it when I got the truck. But anyway, what actually happened was the mount bolts, not on the pump itself, but the mount bolts that attaches the power steering mount to the block of the engine, the mount bolts had got loose on that mounting piece, and the power steering pump was just kind of sitting there vibrating like this right here, and it had vibrated the can part of it, the outer can shell, I guess you could call it, had vibrated up against the frame of the truck, or against the block of the engine. It had sat there and vibrated so much that it had rubbed a little old pinhole in that can and had caused it to start leaking fluid. So what I had to do was pull it back off. I took some JB weld, you know, because you can't get these cans anymore. I mean, that's the thing about these old trucks, is you can't really get parts for them. Now, I can get the pump, but you can't get the outside canister, if that makes any sense. The can that it goes in. And basically, you know, like right here, this is your reservoir, and then you got a hose that, let me get y'all right here where you can see. It comes in and just feeds the, you know, it submerges that pump inside of that transmission fluid, which is, like I said, that's the oil for your power steering. But anyway, it had rubbed a little hole in it, was sitting there leaking and just causing a mess, and, you know, it was just a pain. So I took it off, JB welded it up, tightened up the bracket on the block, got that fixed, and then put the pump back on. And I tell you something else, the belt was kind of a pain. I had to pull the pulley off of it to get it out. That was a kind of a challenge in itself. It's got a keyway, you got to slip it off the keyway and all that good mess. But when I put it back on, the belt was really tight. You know, that pump, you can rotate it, you know, in and out to tighten up the belt. Well, I rotated it all the way in, and the belt was still pretty tight. So what I did, and this is just a little trick I was going to tell y'all in case any of you's ever having to replace a pump, and the belt's real tight, you can take a screwdriver and get that belt, get it started on your pulley, get it as tight as you can get it, and then you can go in there and bump the key for the starter. Just bump it. And when I did that, it just rolled it right on the pulley. You know, it had already got started and was real tight, and when I bumped it, the motor rotated over, and it just worked it right on there. And it was, you know, that was great. So much easier doing it that way. And then once it got on there, you know, I adjusted the pump, got the belt tight, tightened it up, and everything's good. Now on these old Chevrolets, well, on a lot of Chevrolets, not just the old ones, but on these old Chevrolet trucks, after you get the pump put back on and fill it up full of oil, I had to jack the front end of it up because you got to bleed the air out of it. And the way you do that is, you jack the front end of it up so you can get the wheels up off the ground, and then you turn the steering wheel all the way to the left, all the way to the right, and you just keep cycling back and forth and back and forth. It takes a little while. You know, the bad part is it took me longer to get it jacked up than it did to get the job done. But anyway, so I got Red in pretty good shape, took him down the road last night, and he's in good shape. He's ready to haul logs now. I'm pretty much done on this log job. I've got one more white oak tree to cut. So, you know, we're getting down to the end, but the thing about it is the weather won't cooperate. And this time of the year here in Tennessee, I mean, you can pretty much plan on, you know, from January to about first part of April, the weather is just crap. You know, it's going to rain and be mud, and when the ground freezes, that's kind of nice. But you can just pretty much bank on the weather being crap, you know what I mean? And again, I don't want to tear the man's place up coming in and out. If it comes to it and we can't get no logs hauled by next week, we're going to start hauling them out to the highway out there with the mules, with the wagon. And then that way I can load them out there on the road and go ahead and truck them to the mill. And we'll do it that way. So anyway, so let's get over here and dive into this skid steer. And the people at Thompson Caterpillar here in Manchester, if any of you's local and know those people up there, they're great people, easy to work with. You know, they give me some pointers on doing this job. I haven't done this particular job. I have changed thermostats in engines before, gas burners and diesels. It's not a real difficult job to do. But I'm gonna set y'all up over here and let y'all watch. You know, we'll just hang out together and have a good time. All right, so I want to give you just a basic idea of what we got to do. Okay, so right here is where your upper radiator hose. Up here is where your radiator is. And this is your, let's see, that would be the outlet water hose, I guess you could call it. Your thermostat's right in here. Just to make a long story short, thermostat's right in here. We got to take this little piece off. We got to pull the hose off. We got to pull this piece off right here, and our thermostat will be sitting right in there. It's not a real big deal to do. But you got to remember, all your radiator fluid, see, antifreeze, there's a lot of antifreeze in there, and we need to drain that thing first. If you were to pull that hose off right now, it would just come flying out. You know, be a lot of antifreeze to get out of there. So what we need to do, Caterpillar's actually come up with a little deal. There's a petcock drain on the side of the block right behind the oil filter. It's just a little old quarter turn drain, and down here on the bottom there's a hose that comes around the engine and dumps out on the bottom, on the ground down there. So that's why I've got the bucket down there on the ground. I'm going to open that drain and allow the radiator fluid to start draining out. And I would try to show y'all that, but y'all, it's tight in there. Those of you that are familiar with Caterpillar skid steers, if you'll find the oil filter, which is on the left hand side of the engine, now that's the left hand facing that way. If you'll find the oil filter, that petcock drain is just right in front of it. You'll see the hose coming off of it. You got to kind of feel it, and just take your hand, reach up in there, and it's got that little valve. If you turn the valve across the hose, it's off. If you just turn it a quarter of a turn in line with the hose, and it'll let it drain. So here we go. All right, so now we're draining fluid. Now it's going to take just a little bit for this to drain, but I did want to show you this part because I didn't want any of you to, you know, attempt to do this and drain your whole radiator right out of this pipe right here. Now I'm sure there's going to be some fluid come out of here. You know, it's hard to get everything, you know what I'm saying? You'll get it out of the radiator, but you're still going to have some in this hose. So I'm sure there's going to be a little bit come out of that, but we'll get the most of it drained out through here. And this is a 299 D2. It holds, according to the spec sheet, it holds 4 gallons of antifreeze. So I've got a 5-gallon bucket here that I'm gonna fill up. And you know, my machine, it might be low, so I don't know exactly how much is gonna come out. But we're gonna drain this first. And I'm not gonna torture y'all and make y'all sit through the whole draining process. But I'm gonna drain this thing, and then we'll press on with changing the thermostat. Now y'all, we've got about a half a bucket of antifreeze so far, and I'm sure we're gonna get some more out of this one. So I'm gonna have my bucket up here. When I pull this thing off, we'll put it right in the bucket. I'm sure it's gonna make a mess, but we'll minimize as much as we can, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull this hose clamp off, and hopefully, let me get y'all right here where you can see a little better. I'm gonna zoom in. Now, hopefully that right there will get y'all where you can see good. I'm gonna pull this, slip this hose clamp up and loosen it a little more. We'll just slip it up here out of our way. Just go ahead and get that on up out of our way. Okay, so now I'll try to be as quick as I can with this. I'm gonna sort of hold this right here. All right, well, there you have it. So the drain did work like Caterpillar said it would. That was better than I expected it to be. All right, so 12 millimeter is what these bolts are. And you can actually see the thermostat down in the top there. We didn't lose as much fluid as I thought we would. I thought they would be more in that hose, but it worked out pretty good. All right. To be honest with you, this thing kind of runs warmer than what I would like it to. I mean, shoot, on a decent day out when the temperature's just in the summertime when it's an average day, this thing is still run up there about 200 degrees, and I don't even work it very hard. And I've read some stuff online, where some of these cat skid steers would run a little hot. I do try to keep the radiator flushed out and all that good mess. I don't let it, there we go. Just give it a little pop. All right, so the housing's off. We got that off. I'm just gonna put everything up here on top for now. Here's a gasket. I'm gonna try to get it off without tearing it. We got another one. And it's always best to replace the gaskets and all that good mess anytime that you're doing this. That way you don't have to worry about leaks and stuff. I'm gonna just take my pocket knife and kind of ease it up off here. So there's a gasket. Just put everything up here on top. And there it is, y'all. I mean, there ain't much to it. See, this thing's supposed to, it's got that spring in there. It's supposed to release, and let your radiator fluid come out of the motor up into the in the radiator. So I'm gonna go get a rag and we'll clean this up and get ready to put the new one back in. I'm gonna just clean this thing up real good. Try to get all the trash out from around it. Here's a new one from Caterpillar. See the box there, let's see. There's a part number for it. And I did ask them if they had a little lower temperature. You can get these, like for pickups and stuff, you can get them in different temperatures. Like if you want it to run cooler or warmer or whatnot, you can put a different temperature setting thermometer in it. This one here says 76.5 degrees Celsius. So whatever that is in Fahrenheit. But anyway, that's the part numbers and stuff for it, if any of you need that. So I'm gonna go ahead and, drop my socket down in there. So y'all have to get something and get that out. That ain't a big deal. We'll go ahead and set the thermostat right in there. And it's got a little groove that it sets in, y'all. This is not a complicated job to do. Any of you that want to do it yourself, it's pretty easy. I am a mechanic, so I'm kind of experienced at doing this sort of thing. But I mean, any of you that's wanting to do it, do it yourself, I don't think you'd have much trouble trying to do it. Let's see now. Let's make sure that these are the same. Pretty sure they are. Okay, so yeah, they are the same gasket. Now we just got to find the combination of how it sets down in there. I believe that's it right there. Let's see. Both sides look to be the same, so I don't think it matters which way it goes, as long as it seals off good. And so you want to get all that mess off, the mating surfaces. A piece of Scotch-Brite works pretty good for stuff like this. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clean the outside of it too while I got it off and got it here. So what y'all been up to this week? What y'all got going on? You know me, I'm kind of winding down on this log job, so I'm kind of waiting on haul logs really, but with the weather being like it is, the ground's still wet and everything, I can't haul logs, so this kind of stuff right here needs to be done. So I'm trying to kind of make up a little ground on my maintenance. Let's see, now that's how it's gonna go, just like that. So I'm gonna stick it in there like that. I don't know if y'all seen that or not, but I stuck one bolt down in the hole to kind of use as a guide to keep my gasket from shifting on me. And I'm gonna get all the bolts started. Anytime you're putting something together, y'all, you're better off to get all the bolts started before you ever tighten anything down. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of run these down with my fingers. And this one on the back, I'll use my socket to, I can't reach it real good with my fat fingers. So my socket will go down in there and I can do it with it. I hope y'all can see what I'm doing here. This is an aluminum housing, y'all, so you don't want to put a god-awful amount of torque on it. I'm just going to run them down till they get snug. Remember, it's got a gasket in between it too, you know, and you don't want to put unequal pressure on that gasket. The best thing to do is get a torque wrench. That way you'll torque all of them down even. I've done this a lot, y'all. I've been a mechanic most of my life, and I can get my torque specs pretty close by hand. If you are not an experienced mechanic and you can't get bolts close to torque specs, put a torque wrench on it. You know, look up the standard torque for whatever size bolt, and these here would be they're millimeters. I'm not so versed in millimeter bolts as I am in standard bolts, but I would say probably like, you know, 75 inch-pounds probably would be about right. You don't want to put too much on it though, because like I said, it's aluminum housing and you could bust the housing and that just wouldn't be too good of a deal. So now we're going to put our hose back down and slip our hose clamp back down around it. I mean, that's really, in a nutshell, all there is to it. It's a pretty easy job. We got to put the fluid back in it and all that good mess. I'm gonna show you all that in just a minute too. Take and slide that. You kind of get it snugged up and then slide your clamp just a little, and it'll kind of seat itself. And that's, you always kind of want to do that too. All right, so got the hose clamp tight. Let me make sure I got my drain valve turned off. It's done drained all it wants to drain. All right, so my drain valve is off. Now, before we get too far gone, y'all, I got to put this cover back on that goes over these belts and stuff. I just wanted to check the tension on my belts and make sure all my belts was good, and they do seem to be good. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the cover back on. See, can I get that fixed back right quick? Let's see. This may prove to be more of a challenge than doing the thermostat. And it ain't too bad so far. And these little old things, they just turn like a quarter of a turn. It ain't very hard, but it's just kind of a cover to keep trash from getting up in there. And anything we can do to protect it is a good thing. Go ahead and clean up my little old air filter deal there. And I'm sure I need to take my air filter out and clean it. That's always a good idea to keep that thing clean. It can cost you a lot of money to not do it. Your air filter. I'm gonna put this old thermostat and gasket in the box here. Just kind of toss it off to the side. And I wanted to show y'all putting the fluid back in it, because this can be kind of tricky if you've never done it before on this machine. But I'll show you how I do it. It makes it a little easier. Now, let's see, let me get my cap. Now, most of you that's been around these machines, you know, it's got this little old deal here. Let me put it back like it was. So, that right there holds that top piece from coming up. So, take that off, and then this will come up like that, okay? And then your neck for your radiator fill is right up in here. All right, that cap is on it. So, if you lift this up, you can reach up in there and take that cap off, and then just ease it back down. Let's see. Get that out of the way. And then there's a hole in it up there that you can pour the radiator fluid through. Now, if you need this piece to come on up, you can take the pre-cleaner off the intake over there. It's right over here. You can take it off, and y'all might not be able to see it, but it's a pre-cleaner for the air. Let me see if I can show you. All right, so this is it right here. It's just got a hose clamp right down here on the bottom. You loosen that hose clamp, pop that thing off, and then this right here will go all the way up. And I've got me a piece of stick cut. I think it's like 18 inches or something like that. I just use it for a prop, and it's in the cab. I can pick that right there up, put that stick on it, and that's what I use to get in here and clean the radiator out. Because this is actually an oil cooler for your hydraulic oil and the radiator all in one. And I keep this thing cleaned out pretty good. I do it pretty regular. But right there's radiator cap. I'm just going to leave it right there for now. And what we'll do is get in here and we'll fill this thing up. All right, y'all, so I'm up here on the tracks now, and I can see down in there pretty good. Now, you could get a funnel. If you weren't real good at pouring, you could get a funnel and stick down in there, and that funnel would greatly help you. And let's see, I don't think I have one here with me, or I would do that. Of course, you could always cut a drink bottle. You could cut the top part of a drink bottle out and stick it down in there and use it for a funnel. Let me see if I got one, and I'll show y'all that. And here is my makeshift funnel. Oh, y'all, I tell you, I've been in a bind before. You know, when you mechanic long enough and you've been around enough older mechanics that really know how to do things, you come up with crap like this. All right, so I'm just going, I don't know, that might not be long enough to get down in there. It might if I hold it. So the neck on it ain't quite long enough, but if I hold it right there just right, it'll probably work out. A real funnel would be the way to do it. But like I said, I don't have one, so we'll get by like this. I could pour it straight in there, and I believe I would be all right doing it that way. All right, I believe I'm getting it in there. All right, so I got this thing filled up, the radiator up top. I got it all the way up to the fill, up to the neck. I'm gonna crank the skid steer up and see, you know, let it circulate through the block and everything, and hopefully it'll, you know, the level might change a little bit. So I'm gonna crank it up and let it run just a minute. And then I'll let it run until the thermostat opens, and we'll check the fluid again. But you don't want to do that with the radiator cap off. You don't want to do that until it's cooled down enough. So let me go do that. radiator cap back on right quick, and then idle it up and let it go through its cycle to open that thermostat up and circulate the fluid through it. Y'all, I think it's good. I took it around, rode it down to the bottom, come back, put a load on it, you know, to work it, run it wide open, put a load on it, and try to get the thermostat to cycle. Like I said, this thing runs a little warmer than what I think it ought to. Running it wide open, coming up and down these hills, you know, it run 200 degrees. I mean, hey, some of y'all people that's got these skid steers out there, these Cat 299 D2s, comment down here in the comment section. Let me know what y'all's runs, you know, on a typical day. These machines, this is a X8P model, 110 horse. These machines are typically used for like forestry applications where they'll do mulching and stuff, you know, where you got to have a lot of hydraulic power. I don't use it for that. I just mainly use it to load logs and do dirt work, stuff like that. You know, so I don't know, I still think it runs a little warm than what it ought to. But that's, you know, Caterpillar told me that that was about normal. I just think it's a little too hot for me. You know, 175 to 190 degrees is pretty, I like those temperatures. I can deal with that, but 200 just seems a little hot. I mean, what do y'all think? Let me know. I got a bunch of mud in the tracks the other day whenever I was tracking them logs up and down the hill. Turning, you know, on the road and whatnot. Got a bunch of mud in the tracks, and if you ain't careful, of course, one thing it'll do is it'll wear your sprocket right here, and these wear parts on these tracks are pretty expensive, as I've told y'all before. So you don't want to mess around too much. That dirt in there, you know, that sprocket has to turn in that mud, and it's just like sandpaper, you know, it'll wear your sprocket down. So I'm gonna clean this mud out of my tracks, but also if it freezes and you got a bunch of mud in your tracks, it'll freeze your tracks to where you can't move. So if you've got cold weather coming and it's about to freeze, you better clean them tracks out, you know what I mean? Some of y'all that's got these skid steers probably know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna keep an eye on this thing the next several days and make sure it don't leak. If it does leak, you know, I'll go back in and do what I need to do to fix it. I think it might be leaking just a little bit around the gasket where I put that housing back on. It may be leaking around there just a little bit. I can't tell because I spilled some antifreeze, you know, in the engine bay. So I'm not sure if it's just some residual or if it's actually leaking. But whatever it is, I'm going to keep an eye on it and make sure that it's not. You know, I'll keep an eye on the temperature, the fluid level, leaks around hoses and all that good mess. You know, that's just good. In my opinion, if you're going to be an operator, it's just good to know your machine and, you know, take care of it. Stuff like this, you know, I keep a crowbar. This is just it's a smaller crowbar, kind of thin, that I actually found a thing on the side of the road. Somebody lost it and it was laying on the side of the road, and I stopped and picked it up. I've got crowbars laying everywhere. I've got one on the truck. I've got one in the back of my pickup. This one I keep in the skid steer because it's kind of small diameter, and it works good for getting in here and cleaning these tracks out. You know, you can take and do like this. See what I'm saying? And it works really really good for cleaning out the mud. But anyway, I'm not gonna bore y'all. I'm not gonna bore y'all with cleaning the tracks out, but it is something that needs to be done. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Right now, I really don't know the rest of the week what I'm gonna be able to do. I'm trying to catch up maintenance. I got a couple saws I got to rebuild. This time of the year is good for doing stuff like this, maintenance, rebuilding stuff, because you can't get in the woods as much, you know, with it raining and storming. If I can catch a few days of dry weather, we're gonna haul these logs. And like I said, if next week, if we can't get them out, then I'm probably gonna start trucking them out with the log wagon and the mules and get them out to the main road, and then we'll load them on a log truck and go from there. You know, we'll do what we have to do to keep the wood moving, and that's the main thing in a logging operation, is you got to keep the wood moving and you got to be safe. You know, we don't want to hurt ourselves. But look, you know, I was thinking of how I might could engage more with y'all. Maybe do like a question and answer session, something like that. I don't know. Y'all let me know down there in the comments, if you will. You know, maybe some things you'd like to see. If you want to do a question and answer session, that'd be cool. Maybe what we'll do is, like, you know, y'all can leave me a question in the comments for me to do a video on. We'll do one video and I'll get up a bunch of questions, and then I'll just answer your questions back on a video, if that's cool. You know, whatever y'all want to do, be cool with me. I'm pretty easy to please, easy to get along with, so, you know, whatever you think, be good with me. And it'll keep our channel more diversified and keep things moving. You know, I don't want to bore y'all with the same old stuff all the time, but stuff like this, you know, maintenance, that's got to be done too. So anyway, I'm gonna put my email up here on the screen. Any of you need me, just holler at me. Be glad to talk to you. And as always, I'm gonna be praying for you. Each and every one of you that are hearing my voice right now and watching this video, I'm praying for you. I know you need the prayers, and I definitely need to practice. So we'll do it. And hey, look, I'll see you next time.